Councilmember Steckler.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Am I calling on Adrian for roll call now?
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Holtzclaw,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Vignal, Councilmember Cavaleri,
Here.
Councilmember Steckler,
Here.
Councilmember Allison,
Here.
Councilmember Duque, Councilmember Paddock.
Our Mayor Pro Tem, council members Paddock and Duque are on spring break in various parts of the family. So can we have a motion to excuse the three of them, please?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. We'll move to audience communication. I'll start in the chambers. Would anyone like to address the council? It's in chambers tonight? Okay. I'll move online. Anyone online? I'm seeing one nod ahead and I see a blank screen on another. So we'll move on and have another opportunity at the end of the meeting. That brings us to presentations, and in honor of our many and great volunteers in our community, I'm proud to read the following proclamation on behalf of the City Council. Whereas the City of Mill Creek seeks to achieve strong community spirit through active civic participation, and whereas the city has many dedicated volunteers who serve at the city to build a strong community, and whereas volunteers are motivated by the simple satisfaction of helping their fellow citizens and making their community a better place to live, and whereas these individuals have become a vital and positive force in our community and have demonstrated a shared conviction that the well-being of a community is largely dependent on helping others, and whereas the city, to promote volunteerism, create a volunteer role to facilitate volunteer opportunities for those living and working in Mill Creek, and whereas National Volunteer Week was established in 1974 and for the last 49 years has been a time to honor and recognize volunteers. Now therefore, I, Brian Holtzclaw, the mayor of the city of Mill Creek, on behalf of the city council, do hereby proclaim the week of April 16th through 22nd, 2023 as National Volunteer Week in Mill Creek and honor the hard work and selfless dedication of our volunteers who make Mill Creek a better place to live and work. Thank you for all that all volunteers around the city do every day, all year long. Where does that bring us? We have no old business, so it brings us to our new business. Mr. Torico.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just have a couple quick items. There's two resolutions for your consideration tonight, and they're interrelated, so they're 1-2. So back on March 14th, the City Council passed a motion allowing us to go ahead and request the additional $50,000 for the mental housing grant. We went ahead and did that. It was granted. Go through the thing here. So all the work that's going to be done under the grant will be reimbursable under the grant. And so if we don't spend all the money, we won't ask for it. And it's all based on deliverables. So I'll get to that here in a second. So the two additional items that we want to use the extra $50,000 for is a direct mailer. So that money is what we estimate will be for the, develop the content, get it printed, buy the postage, and get it mailed out to every citizen in the city. The second piece is $30,000, which would cover creating GIS shapefiles for the zoning map and the comp plan map, so that we can then use that not just for the middle housing to create some other maps, but also when we're working on the comp plan, we'll have the data, so we won't have to pay the consultant, have to create those files. So what I'm going to ask you tonight is there's two parts to this. The first is approving the amendment number 1 to our original grant contract and allowing the city manager to execute that contract. And the second part is authorizing the city manager to execute amendment number 3 to LDC's contract so that they can spend the $50,000. And so Here's the first of two resolutions. So the first motion would be adopt a resolution approving amendment number 1 to contract 2363326-029 to the Washington State Department of Commerce middle housing grant in the amount of $50,000 and allowing the city manager to execute the grant amendment. Second motion for your consideration is adopt a resolution approving amendment number 3 to contract 2022-1675 to allow LDC to perform additional work under the middle housing grant in the amount of up to $50,000. So the two items on the agenda are covered in these two resolutions. It's just one presentation because they're both connected. You do one to do the other.
Thank you, Mr. Trigo. Any questions? Councilmember Steckler?
Yes, I have a question on amendment number 3. I was wondering if you could just give me a little more information on the direct mail piece. What's the vision on that and the particular objective of what you're trying to get accomplished through that?
Right, so we're going to use the direct mailer to give more information about the middle housing study. I want to call it a project, I'm going to call it a study because that's really what it is. But we also want to provide links to the comp plan and the work that we're going to be doing is from now into 2024. So what we're going to also do is create a web page so that direct mailer will have a link or a, what do you call it? QR code to go directly to that page so they can get more information on the work we're going to be doing on the comp plan, why we're doing it, what's entailed, what are the parts, how can they get involved, that kind of thing.
So the objective is more to inform than to gather data from them.
That's correct.
Okay, that's my question. Thank you.
Any other questions, council?
Mayor, would you like a motion or two?
Yes, please. Let's take them one at a time.
Mayor, I propose we adopt a resolution approving amendment number 1 to contract 23-63326-029 to the Washington State Department of Commerce middle housing grant in the amount of $50,000 and allow the city manager to execute the grant amendment.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just the only discussion is so the public knows we're not rushing through this. We've gone through this about 3 or 4 weeks ago at length. So I think council's fully aware, so is staff. Thank you.
Yeah, we gave the authorization for the staff to pursue this and they're just bringing it back to us for execution tonight. So if there's no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Mayor, my second motion would be to adopt.
I've got to finish the,
Oh,
1 second.
guess we are rushing through it.
Any nays? Any abstentions? First motion passes 4-0. Any further motions?
Move that we adopt a resolution approving amendment number 3 to contract 2022-1675 to allow LDC to perform additional work under the middle housing grant in the amount of up to $50,000.
Second.
Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes as well, 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Trico. That brings us to, I believe, is this going to be Grant? Are you taking this one or is Martin? The opioid settlement. Armina. Oh, there it is.
Money and finance manager.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, staff, and to the audience joining us at the city chamber. Thank you, as well as those joining us virtually. Tonight, I am here with Grant, our city attorney, to get authorization for approval to participate in the new national opioid settlements. Oops, sorry. I'm just going to give a brief background as to the timeline. So way back in 2016, the Washington Attorney General's office began the litigation against the pharmaceutical supply chains of prescription opioids. And in July 2021, the nationwide settlement were reached to resolve all opioid litigations brought by states and local political subdivisions against the three largest pharmaceutical distributors, McKesson, Cardinal Health, AmerisourceBergen, and also against Janssen Pharmaceuticals and its parent company, Johnson & Johnson. In September of 2022, this council adopted Resolution 2022-648, authorizing the city's participation in that first settlement agreement. In November of 2022 and December of 2022, a second settlement agreement was reached with three pharmacy chains, CVS, Walgreens, and Walmart, as well as three manufacturers, Allergan and Teva. And so today we are requesting City Council's approval for us to participate in this second settlement for the national opioid litigation. And so our opportunity to join is by April 18th. So I'm passing it to Grant for further information on the participation agreements.
Thank you very much. Maybe if you want to advance to the next slide. As was well described, this is the second of a sort of tranche of national settlements. The first settlement was one that we entered into. We participated in last year. It was about $430 million that the state would receive over 17 years, and it was going to be split about 50-50, less a deduction for the local government of attorney's fees that were spent by the local governments that actually hired counsel and advanced the litigation. Mill Creek's share in that settlement was a little over 0.1% of the local government share of the state's recovery. And last year that amount, there was one payment at the end of last year, about $9,500, and this year it's a little over $10,000. I believe that one is being paid over 17 years. If we go to the next slide, the settlement agreement requires that the funds be used for opioid abatement strategies and opioid abatement treatment. The slide identifies a number of the kinds of things that can be done. A city can undertake this work on its own, or the payments are structured in regional consortiums. Snohomish County, Whatcom County, and Skagit County are all in one group, and there's an effort to coordinate a larger effort that the city could contribute its dollars in if it is inclined to. And I think there's been some discussion with the Snohomish County leadership about that. We move to the next slide. Okay, this is the new settlement. It was reached in late December of this year. It's a national settlement, and the settlement agreement was signed by our Attorney General in January. And this pays about $434 million to the state with a similar 50-50 split, less some fees and costs to local governments. Not surprisingly, Mill Creek's share percentage share remains the same. What is a little bit unclear at this time is exactly how much gets paid every year. It could vary some because some of the agreements are structured to front load payment. For instance, the Walmart payment is going to be paid primarily in the first year. Other contributors are paying over a longer period of time, some 7 years and all the way up to 15 years. So there could be some variation in how much the payment is to each of the jurisdictions on an annual basis. Go to the next slide, please. So in order for the city to participate in this settlement, we need the council to authorize the city manager to sign a series of documents for participation. There's a memorandum of understanding. There's an allocation agreement. Obviously, any payment of funds will involve a release as well. We are obligated to get those documents to the Attorney General's office by the 18th of this month. And of course, like there was in the last settlement, there has to be a high percentage of local governments participating. Last year, it was well over 90%. And of course, they're working to have that percentage up there in the 90% range, I believe, in order for the settlement to be approved. So that is that's a summary of the settlement and what we're asking council's action for. I think, Romina, do you have a slide with the motion on it? If not, it's in your packet. What do you know? So we are looking for that. That's the direction we're looking for tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Do you have a question, Vince?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Councilmember Cavaleri.
Thanks, Mayor. Grant, I know it's really not enough money to talk about here whatsoever, especially given the crisis of overdoses in our community and throughout our country. The uses for the funds are very specific though, correct?
There are requirements that they be for the opioid treatment, but I would mention this, Councilmember Cavaleri. I believe in this new settlement, funds can also be used to address fentanyl abuse.
I think thanks, Grant. That's kind of where I was going to go. Year over year, we're up an average of 30 to 40% on overdoses. And in the time it took me to get this out, another citizen across our state has overdosed on an opioid. So not enough being done, clearly not enough money to talk about. I'm happy to make a motion, and the cities that are suffering in the state will really never see the lion's share enough to recover any sort of funds to get anybody into treatment. Or, I mean, even if it were just to provide Narcan for our officers, I think it's a good use of the funds. So I'll support it on that base, and happy to make a motion if nobody else has comments.
Any other questions before we get to motion? No, I see no further questions.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll move to adopt resolution approving the city's participation in the national opioid settlements with Teva, Ellegren, CVS, Walgreens, and Walmart, and authorizing the city manager to execute all documents necessary for the city to participate in the settlements and the allocation agreement distributing settlement proceeds amongst Washington local governments.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Romina. Moving right along tonight. Let's talk about some surplus vehicles.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, staff, those present in chambers, as well as those joining us on the webinar. Tonight, I will be presenting 2 Mill Creek police vehicles for surplus. Per Mill Creek Municipal Code 3.44, I am certifying that police vehicle MC32, a white 2009 Ford F-150, and police vehicle MC42, a 2016 Ford Police Utility, are surplus property and no longer of public use. Based on current vehicle condition and service record, a fair market value of Ford F-150 is between $7,000 and $8,000. The fair market value for the PUV Police Utility is estimated between $11,000 and $13,137. And the vehicle MC032 has 118,000 miles and has significant mechanical concerns to include a failing transmission. At nearly 90,000 miles, MC42 has significant mechanical concerns related to turbo failure that the department can no longer justify the cost to keep vehicle in usable condition. The department also can obviously no longer cost either vehicles, which requires significant maintenance needs. All emergency equipment will be removed from each of these vehicles. If no bids are received, the city manager may direct the sale or disposition of such surplus property under the procedures adopted according to Municipal Code Mill Creek 344-020. I'm requesting a motion to adopt resolution authorizing the city manager to approve the sale of police vehicle MC 32 and police vehicle MC 42 by live auction utilizing James G. Murphy Company.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing no questions, are there any motions?
Do we have a resolution number?
Next resolution number is 665.
Thanks, Mayor, and may as well keep up the streak of motions here. Move to adopt resolution number 2023-665 as stated by the.
Yeah, we don't need to reference a number. Just approve a resolution without referencing a number.
Copy that.
Clerk will fill it in.
Approved to adopt the resolution as stated by the Director of Security of what are we calling that
Public
position? Public safety in our community.
Eric, do you have the motion up in your presentation?
Yeah, there was a screen that had the,
I do, yes.
who's got control of it?
I didn't see it on our page.
There it is.
Want the official version now?
Yes, please, for the record, just so it's clear.
Make a motion to adopt resolution authorizing the city manager to approve the sale of police vehicle MC 32, a white 2009 Ford F-150, and MC 42, a 2016 police Ford utility with, I'm not going to give the VIN, by auction using James G. Murphy Company.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes 4-0. Thank you.
Mayor. Thank you, council members.
Okay, it brings us down to item 12, reports, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. As you recall, back earlier in the year, we did submit an application for Audrey Elwood, who was a Jackson High School student. We submitted her application to the Center for Quality Communities, an AWSC affiliate or partner. Unfortunately, Audrey did not make it all the way to the end, did not receive any scholarships, but I will be contacting her to congratulate her anyway for her successes over the past number of years. She's contributed a lot to the community, including our youth advisory board, mock legislatures and so forth. So just wanted to say thank you to Audrey, and also for her to coming into council too and giving kind of a little bit about her history and what she's accomplished. I also had a chance to meet with her in person. So she has a lot going for her. So I'll send some communications out to her just to thank her. The next second report and final report I have is to congratulate Adrian Garcia, apologize, as our new city clerk
Congratulations, Adrian.
as of Monday. So congratulations, Adrian.
Thank you.
And that's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Any other staff reports?
No other staff reports.
Okay, that brings us to our reports. I've got several things to cover. First, as you've seen, our agenda is light tonight. We did that intentionally with only 4 of us here. We tried to move some administrative stuff onto the agenda so we could next couple weeks. Be prepared. The 11th and 25th will not be this short. We will have some dinner for everyone because anticipate we will be here a little longer. So second thing was gave the city presentation on the 21st to the chamber. It was well attended. I think we had 40 people, a lot of which we had a strong showing from the city, both from the council and from staff, but that was a great event. Did anyone else receive an email on 3/27 from Safewise? I will share this then with the rest of the council. One of our goals we set for in our retreat in January was to be, was it our goal or priority to be one of the safest cities in the state. And I got an email from an organization called Safewise with their ranking of safe cities in the state. And we were ranked one of the safest cities in the state, falling number 18, right behind Kirkland and right ahead of Liberty Lake, out by Spokane area. So I had not heard of this group before, but I'll forward the email around and their report. So I don't know that we want to say we've checked that off the list, but it was interesting timing that we got that soon after a report. The SCT meeting a couple weeks ago, the Department of Commerce gave a presentation on House Bill 1220 implementation. That's the requirements we're going to have to follow for our comp plan update next year on the housing element. I think the only thing I took from it of significance was it verified what I think we'd heard from Clay White a few weeks ago, is that it doesn't require us to provide the various ranges of housing. It requires us to provide the framework to allow it to happen through our comp plan and zoning codes. So they said some other things I won't get into that seem to be a little bit contradictory, but I have the note at home where I wrote down the very clear words. They say we don't have to make sure it happens. We just have to plan for it. The last thing I wanted to cover are two bills that we've been following. So I'll try to keep this brief. House Bill 1110 and House Bill 5466. 1110 is the missing middle. House Bill 5466 is the TOD, the transit oriented. Big shout out to staff, especially Mike. There's been a lot of time spent in the last 2 weeks bird dogging what has been going on, especially with 1110. It's been very confusing following all the amendments and strikers that get dropped and the changes that are made in the various committees. We submitted comment letters to both the Senate on House Bill 1110 and to the House on Senate Bill 5466 because we were commenting in the opposite chamber. 1110, there's a lot of confusion about whether we would be subject to it. The problems with the bill could be seen by the fact that we interpreted it differently than PSRC, that interpreted it differently than AWC, which interpreted it differently than some of the representatives we talked to who voted for it. Where the bill stands now is it passed out of the Senate Ways and Means Committee yesterday and will go to the floor with an amendment that would require us, rather than, if you recall, the House bill would require, as originally approved by the House, would have required us to plan for as many as 4 units or possibly 6, depending on where you were located. The striker approved by the House Ways and Means Committee would put us in a category that would only require us to plan for 2 units per lot, which is interesting because one of the things I've asked Director Todd to look at is our code already allows for ADUs and DADUs in several of our residential zoning districts. So if that is in fact the case, and if the areas that were subject to that requirement, we may already satisfy it. It hasn't been adopted yet. It's going to be on the vote of the floor here in the coming week or so. And then if it's approved by the floor, Senate, I believe it has to go back to the House because their Senate adopted changes that the House hasn't approved yet. So, but it's heading in the right direction. The bad news is we're still in it. The good news is it may not be as bad for us as we anticipated it could have been. So a lot of hard work was put in by Mike on keeping us on top of that. 5466, Mike, you might be able to give a better quick summary of that than I can. I mean, the gist of our issue with the bill is this is a transit-oriented development that's similar to the missing middle bill, would require jurisdictions that are along BRT or light rail lines to increase the density along those lines. Our problem with the bill is that it treats communities like ours along bus rapid transit lines the same as a community on light rail lines. So would force us to make changes to have densities as if we had light rail when we only have BRT. So again, that bill is still in the sausage making process. It's gotten better, I guess is the best way to characterize it. It's not perfect for us. It's certainly not perfect for us, but it's better than where it started. So that's still in process. And I think that's soon to be on the floor of the House, I believe. So that's the shortish version of what's going on with those bills, but a lot of work has been put in by Mike, staff, Adrian helping out getting things submitted, the mayor pro tem, myself, Al, a lot of work getting that stuff together. So our efforts being active in the legislature this year, I think are paying off. So I think that is, yep, that's all I had for tonight. So where are we in the pecking order? Councilmember Cavaleri. Any report tonight?
Yes, Mayor, two quick things. The 25th of April, I will not be here. Hopefully my boat should be pulling into the Grand Cayman port at that point. And I will happily think of all of you struggling here.
No, you won't.
And all jokes aside, you know, it's interesting. We were talking about the settlement with the opioid settlement from the pharmacies and whatnot. Fentanyl is now the #1 killer of adults 18 to 45. 100,000 of our fellow citizens lost their lives last year, and I think the number is expected to be 118 this year. I don't think I've ever in my years of doing this career have ever seen a scourge on a community as we're witnessing that right now, this poisoning of a generation in front of our eyes. Hopefully we can be more active. Hopefully we can hold some more folks accountable who are allowing this to get to the streets, be more proactive in our approach. But we're here struggling just like everybody else. Thanks.
Councilmember Steckler, any report tonight?
I got a couple quick things. First of all, I'd like to know what I'm doing wrong because I'm going to be here on the 25th. I'm always here. I never get to go anywhere sunny like the rest of you do. I'm lucky if I get up to Bellingham or something. I got to do something different. First comment, Audrey, city manager. I would like to mention that the Kiwanis Club of Mill Creek has 2 open scholarships. They're just now accepting applications for. If Audrey'd like to submit her name to those, I think that'd be a good opportunity. She's got a good track record. Mayor's report. I didn't want to let the mayor know last week when you were out. A number of us talked about your state of the city address to the city chamber, and really well received after the fact from many of the business leaders that came up afterwards. So I wanted to commend you in person on the job you did and the good relations you're building with our business community. And finally, just want to give a quick note that the city of Mill Creek, and I don't mean to bring them again, but the Kiwanis Club of Mill Creek, it's 30 days out from our annual electronic recycling event, which we are now starting to promote, and it'll be happening right next door at City Hall North. And it's actually an extremely well attended event by our citizens at getting rid of all of those thousands of burnt out television sets and old microwaves that they don't know what to do with. So again, it's a great service to the community, and as we'll be getting closer now, we'll be starting to promote that more. That's my report.
Councilmember Ellison?
Yeah, just a short report. I'm on the legislative committee and I'm following the public safety bills that are working their way through our legislative session this session. There's 2. One is in response to the Blake decision. It's Senate Bill 5536. It's back in the House and it's in committee right now. There's been no new information posted on the website, even though today was the day it should have moved forward again. Maybe it's just status hasn't been taken and reported to the website yet. The other one is the Senate Bill 5352, which is to correct our missing pursuit laws. And that one also is now out of the Senate in a House committee. There's no new status. It should have gone to the floor today. I don't see status as of right now, just looked. So maybe it's just another not statused on the website. Hopefully next week we'll have some good news. And I don't know what my other 2 committee members would have to report. So that's all for me. Thanks.
One other thing I forgot to mention, I saw Mr. Harder's picture on the screen. I wanted to give a kudos to him. He's hard at work on putting out the State of the City video that we recorded a couple weeks ago. We got the first take of it and he's hard at work putting his magic to it for a final product that hopefully will be out soon. Okay, that's the end of our reports. Audience communication. Anyone in chambers like to address the council? Anyone online like to address the council? Seen a nod of heads. Okay, contrary to the agenda, it should say none after number 14. We do not have an executive session tonight, so if there's no objection, I will adjourn the meeting at 6:35.
Wow.
And none, we will be
No.
adjourned at 6:35. See you in
6:08.
a week.